Recording in progress.
Hello, my friends. I'm going to share a poem with you, just popped to mind, um, which I encountered 35 or 40 years ago. It's by Juan Ramon Jimenez, and it was translated by Robert Bly. And it kind of became the poem of my life. Not kind of, it did. I am not I. I am not I am this one, sitting beside me whom I cannot see, whom at times I do manage to visit, but who mostly I forget, who remains calm and silent when I speak, and who forgives gently when I hate, who walks where I am not, and who will remain standing when I die. Isn't that an amazing poem? I am not I. I am not I. I am this one standing beside me whom I do not see, whom at times I do manage to visit, but who mostly I forget, who remains calm and silent when I speak, who forgives gently when I hate, who walks where I am not, and who will remain standing when I die. So let's sit, friends. We're already sitting. Let's sit and be awake. Oh, that gets more interesting. Yeah, but I'm in a crappy mood. I don't want to be awake. But here we are. Why not? As the sutra says, abandoning covetousness and grief concerning the world. Why not just let go of the world? Whew, all those ideas and plans and opinions and fears. Why not simply be here? Notice how the body breathes. There's a certain real curiosity, isn't there? What is happening here with this breathing? And awareness of the body is one channel or one gochara, one realm of abiding. There's another, which is the mind and the thoughts. So let's include any thoughts that wander in or obsess their way in. And let's practice in the field of kindness. Of course, we become more and more loving of ourselves. How could we not? So coming home, inhabiting, incarnating in the breath of this moment. Mindfulness shines equally on everything like the sun. It just makes it known. And so we sit here at the point, what is it, the center point, the point where being present and not present is apparent. And so with great love and compassion, kindness, let us bring awareness into the actual tissues and bones of breathing. True contact, penetration. with this breath. Including the hands and the legs, the back and the face, the whole body. It's alive. And there may well be thoughts. There's such common phenomena in the universe. Noticing thoughts as thoughts. Awakening from restlessness, agitation, worry, from wanting or not wanting. Notice that awakening, that realization. Oh, that's a dream. This is breathing in. we might broaden the scope of our observation. With kind of a contemplation in a way, which is, what am I doing here? What's my purpose? What is it that is motivating my being here? And what will be the object of what am I attending to? Is it the breath? Is it the hindrances? Is it the enlightenment factors? And is this a suitable, is this a skillful object? And we can certainly say yes. This is called mindfulness with clear comprehension. The purpose, the suitability, the domain, where can I actually pay attention to it? Will it help lead to insight, to understanding of impermanence, for instance? And with this greater clarity of intention, we can again, or still, or once in a moment, appear in awareness as breathing. each breath. Each breath has a beginning. It then arises to fullness, changes direction, declines, and then disappears. It appears out of nowhere. Thoughts are the same. They begin. They think themselves into being. Sometimes they get very complex, papancha, mental proliferation. And then awareness illuminates them. And they're no longer thoughts out of control. They're thoughts noticed, thoughts seen. And so it is with great ease, great comfort, great relaxation, actually, that we cultivate mindfulness in the present moment. This is how it is right now. as the body sits still for a longer time, it's not uncommon for discomforts to emerge. They are, in fact, very central to the teaching. So when those discomforts arise, notice them briefly, deeply but briefly. Come back to breath. When the discomfort is a little more demanding, notice fully, come back to breath. And then ultimately we turn consciousness, we bring consciousness, or there's no good words for it. We pay close attention to the discomfort, to the disliking of the discomfort, to the dukkha. May all beings everywhere share in the merits of our practice. What a beautiful intention. I have this experience of a self. So why not share my merits with everyone around me? Why not then realize that my practice is the practice of everyone? And we might be a little more specific. May beings who are to the east of us, whatever way east is, toward the sun near us. You have beings that you know to the east of you? Different cities, different countries. To all beings to the west of us. The little seaside towns here in Oregon. And then there's all those beings of the ocean. There's Hawaii, there's Asia. To all beings to the north of us, may all beings further north, may they have all blessings. May all beings to the south. And we can imagine golden or white light, great waves of it going out from us, or simply the sweet feeling of knowing I'm wishing people well. In fact, I'm wishing all beings well. And I want to close this morning with reading a short poem that came to me in the last day or so. It's called Smart Cookie by Richard Schiffman, after Wallace Stevens. The fortune that you seek is in another cookie, was my fortune. So I'll be equally frank. The wisdom that you covet is in another poem. The life that you desire is in a different universe. The cookie you are craving is in another jar. The jar is buried somewhere in Tennessee. Don't even think of searching for it. If you found that jar, everything would go kerflooey for 1,000 miles around. It is the jar of your fate in an alternate reality. Don't even think of living that life. Don't even think of eating that cookie. Be a smart cookie. Eat what's on your plate, not in some jar in Tennessee. That's my wisdom for today, though I know it's not what you were looking for. Don't even think of living that life. Don't even think of eating that cookie. Be a smart cookie. Eat what's on your plate, not in some jar in Tennessee. Oh, shit. I want to end this morning with a poem that appeared. Thank you. It's called Smart Cookie by Richard Schiffman, after Wallace Stevens. The fortune that you seek is in another cookie, was my fortune. So I'll be equally frank. The wisdom that you covet is in another poem. The life that you desire is in a different universe. The cookie you are craving is in another jar. The jar is buried somewhere in Tennessee. Don't even think of searching for it. If you found that jar, everything would go kerflooey for 1,000 miles around. It is the jar of your fate in an alternate reality. Don't even think of living that life. Don't even think of eating that cookie. Be a smart cookie. Eat what's on your plate, not in some jar in Tennessee. That's my wisdom for today, though I know it's not what you were looking for. Don't even think of eating that cookie. So be a smart cookie and eat what's on your plate, not in some jar in Tennessee. And so here we are, sitting in this body, in this time and place. In this situation of food supply and financial support and this situation of health, this many days post-COVID or pre-COVID, breathing in and breathing out consciously. Please join me if you wish in taking delight in the presence of one another. Seeing. Hi, Aaron. Well, I find a moment arising that I want to share with you. It was with Ajahn Amaro, probably 30 years ago. Maybe it doesn't matter. The retreat was over, and there were 5 or 6 of us sitting in his cabin, the teacher's cabin at Cloud Mountain. And one of his students came in somewhat in a flurry and said, Ajahn, we have to go, otherwise you may miss your plane. And Ajahn Amaro said, okay. And as he was standing up, he said, goodbye, everyone. See you soon. And then he paused and said, well, actually, I'm leaving. We may never see each other again. And I want you to know that this time together was wonderful. And that's what I'm thinking this morning. I'm going away for 17 days. And thank you for being here so diligently and helping to make the space for me to do the thing that I do here. Wouldn't happen if we weren't together. Jim is teaching Qigong. Jim is being Jim on Saturday at PIMC. Yes?
Jim is being Jim on Saturday at PIMC and on Sunday at PIMC.
Great. Thank you, Jim. I probably should be more prepared with numbers or something than I am, but maybe they're not needed. We are running at a deficit that if we don't get our act in gear will be a problem by the end of the year. So when I speak of sensing into the value of PIMC to you, or your understanding of the mission of what happens, how people's lives are transformed, if there is any way in your financial well-being to make a one-time or an ongoing contribution to running the center, that'd be great. We actually have really solid financials coming out, and the new website is going to have a spot for that every time, so every month it'll be clear. But generosity is so satisfying. And I guess I've been around enough deaths lately. It really makes sense to have a will. If you don't have a will, it's unfortunate for your heirs. But also, PIMC can go on wills, and that can make quite a difference to an organization. I'm sorry. You cannot leave dogs or cats to PIMC. Oh, Jamie put the link. I presume that's the link for PIMC. So any questions? Any update on the deficit? Is it growing? It is growing monthly by, I'm not sure. $400, $500. What happened during the end of COVID was the monthly donors diminished. And I don't think attendance has diminished. It's hard to tell with this COVID business, but people are feeling inflation is real. Fear is real, isn't it? If you pay attention a little bit. We're also stunningly vulnerable. We're nothing but vulnerable. Tender bodies. I mean, how ridiculous to be designed with no armor, just a soft belly. A stick can hurt you. And then we have all this incredible emotional sensitivity. All of it originally for survival. And then we have the TV. Jesus. For some reason, I was feeling just a little superior to people who watch TV, because I watch on a monitor. So it's absurd, isn't it? It's totally insane.
Good morning, it's Denise.
Hello, Denise.
So, first off, just that comment about the stick. We were backpacking this weekend, and my son was whittling a stick, and he ended up with some like crazy contact dermatitis from the stick. So, not even like, so yeah. So, anyway, that was just like you said, even a stick could hurt you. And yeah, like even touching a stick could hurt you. But really, my question, I think, is building on what we were talking about yesterday, kind of about just maybe almost being detached or disengaged or non-reactive, in that I'm experiencing the opposite, where there's something that's happening and I don't like it, and it's not the way that it was supposed to be and not the way that I had it planned. And but obviously I have no control over this situation. I tried to make it the way I wanted it to be, and whatever, it's just not going to happen. Like the kids aren't coming camping with us. Like it's not that big of a deal, but like, so I'm struggling with how to, like, there's a part of me that's mad, part of me that's like, oh, just let it go, it's not a big deal, like whatever. But isn't it okay to be like upset about this? Because I am upset about it.
What's the cookie on your plate?
I'm going to Tennessee. That's it.
Well, but there's a cookie right on your plate, which is that you're angry. You're hurt and angry, at least. And as I understand it, and do my best to practice it, allowing both to exist fully is the middle path. It's the way. It's the path of neither grasping to, clinging to, nor pushing away. That there's a part of you that's really annoyed, really angry, maybe rageful even, because it could also ricochet back into the past, and so it could have old trauma, old repetitions of this pattern, whatever it is. So it's not that you're not going to feel. If you'll probably feel it more. I think we feel more and more and more depth in our experiences. So that means it may really hurt, and you may be really angry, and you may have the choice of, how do I express this anger? That it might be expressed very skillfully, or it might be expressed very unskillfully. But I think we have to feel it to its depth. Is that making sense? I mean, I really, I have made great use of my sacred meditation spot to go and write a letter that was full of every expletive, that the letter not to be sent, or spoken that out loud. Put a picture of the person that I'm so unfinished with, and just speak it. But it's all in the context of mindfulness. It's how can I explore this rage, this sadness, this despair, without getting lost, for one thing, but also not believing it's the truth. Was that close, Denise? Yeah. One one does meet capital B Buddhists who are very flat and not particularly full of heart either. But that's just an imbalance that we get into for a while. There sure are enough ways to get into imbalance.
Robert, are you saying that if when you get into the triggering of trauma, that by working with that and holding, it's Penelope, working with that and holding both, that ultimately you can get balance?
Yes.
Because it's easy to get, caught up in the past, and you're just pissed as hell,
Right.
and you're hardly full of loving kindness at that point towards a situation or an individual or oneself.
Right.
So I'm just trying to work out the balance of work out, sitting with it. You sat and wrote your letter. So is that a continual process? You sit and write the letter until you worked it out, so to speak?
It's a really powerful question. On one end of a spectrum, there's I, me, mine, mine. And that's who I am. On another end of a spectrum of a sorts is awareness of being the one, full awakeness. And when we take birth, we get pretty embedded here at this end. And we've developed therapies in the West that go from genetic injuries, schizophrenia and things like that, up to high-functioning garden variety neurotic. Buddhism has tools that start somewhere in the middle with some personal neurotic wounding and some trauma. And then they go from there to high-functioning garden variety neurotic into wakefulness. And when we're practicing the meditation, we're not intentionally doing therapy. We're not going back looking for the traumas. But people do get into that. What we're doing is seeing, can I sit here and be aware of the breath and open till I open to everything? Right? That's my meditation, accepting everything I can along the way. And then as I start to do that, there starts to be thoughts, feelings, emotions that are coming out of trauma, that are coming out of the past. They're arising in the present moment from the past. And then the task is, if it's a pain in the leg and you notice it 5 times and it persists, then maybe you pay attention toward the pain. And it's the same with with memories and all the various body sensations of trauma. And simply practicing will unwind some of that. And at some point, having a good therapist or teacher will also be really important, because sometimes it's too lonely to do it on your own, or too unstable, too overwhelming. Right? If you're venturing back into some time in your life when there was some very difficult event, more than your little ego could handle at that time, it's really useful to have another person present. And actually, that reminds me, one of the first therapy class I ever took in a program I didn't finish at Lewis and Clark College, the therapist said, wounds occurred interpersonally. Wounds to the self occurred interpersonally will only be healed interpersonally. And so if there's attachment wounding and so on, having a hand to hold at some points is very helpful. though the healing goes on just naturally with the meditation as well. And most often, doing 20 minutes or half an hour a day or even an hour isn't going to be setting off a huge amount of old trauma. It might, if there is some. So that was probably more than you asked for, Penelope.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Mm. Well, my friends, I have a long list today prior to leaving town. Oh, Dave Mayer, thinking about broadcasting and so on, we're talking on the board. The plan at this moment is to start that there is a function in Zoom that can broadcast to one of Facebook, YouTube, or some other thing. And so what I'm thinking of doing is in the morning with these meditations to be on YouTube for the meditation and then kill YouTube for the discussion afterwards. So that, you know, we didn't want to put everyone's faces and names out on YouTube that way. So at least not when people are sharing.
And if you can find a way to, you know, make the recordings available to people within the group, that
yes,
would be wonderful.
That's what I meant. Well, they'll be there on YouTube. Oh, and this, the whole thing, yes.
Yeah.
That'll be on Zoom, and yes, it'll be on, tech.
Okay.
Vimeo.
Thanks.
All right. So anybody sitting with something you would like to share before we sign off and head off into the wild blue yonder?
One last little quick thing, Robert.
Yes, sir.
Something to suggest. I've been going through some challenges in my life, and I've developed a new approach to work with mindfulness, which I call hummingbird therapy, which is sometimes it's good to have some ease. So what I'm doing is mindfulness practice when it comes to mind and work, but sometimes just sitting down and I have a hummingbird feeder on my little patio, and I just go and watch the hummingbirds, and it's very healing. Sometimes have some space. So I'm finding that to be really helpful. So if that's helpful for others, please hope it is. But I'm finding it helpful to have some moments of space. So.
And may your little hummingbird heart relax down completely.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah. Okay, let us sing our song. Ready? Bhavatu sabe mangalam. Bhavatu sabe mangalam. Bhavatu sabe mangalam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu.